Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Dave, and I'm one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And we just want to take a second just to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there's so many different things you could be doing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, so we greatly appreciate you spending some time to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how you can use it effectively in your homeschool. So, as we get started here, we do just want to say that, what we do here at Homeschool Tracker is not only create the tools and the resources to allow you to be more successful in your homeschool, but really our mission here is to not only just do that, but to also give you the training and the support so that you can use those tools most effectively. And so that's what webinars like tonight are really all about. Just being there to walk you through Homeschool Tracker, to answer any questions you might have so that you can use the tool more effectively in your homeschool. So a few housekeeping notes for tonight. We are recording this session. So as soon as that recording is available, we'll send an email to each and every one of you that have registered with a link to that recording. We are scheduled to go for about an hour tonight. We'll walk through the whole program and show you lots of examples and demos. And then we will open it up for questions at the end. And I'm happy to stay on as late as necessary to answer all of your questions. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to just go over the agenda for tonight. So what we're going to cover is, first we'll talk about where to find help. If you've been using Homeschool Tracker, you've most likely seen that it is a very feature-rich program. So I want to make sure you have all the resources of how to get help. Then we'll go through the interface of Homeschool Tracker and kind of walk through the different areas of the program. Then we'll talk about subjects and courses and the differences between the two and how to set those up. Then we'll discuss assignments, which are really the heart of all of your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll talk about lesson plans, which are really popular and time-saving feature. Then we'll talk about reports, specifically the daily task list. We'll also touch on transcripts and report cards. Then we'll talk about workflows. And what we mean by workflows is really just how do you use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis. We'll go over some examples for that. And then, like I mentioned, we will have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So where to find help? So I think probably the best place to find help with Homeschool Tracker is right here on these webinars. We do these pretty much every month or maybe twice a month. And they're just a great way for you to come online, to get all of your questions answered live, and to just kind of brush up on a lot of the different features and techniques within Homeschool Tracker. So if you go to our website at homeschooltracker.com and just go up to the support tab and click on Training Center, you'll see all of the upcoming training events. And you'll also get links to all the past training events. So all of the previous Getting Started with Homeschool Tracker webinars are here, as well as a webinar we did on lesson planning specifically. So if you're at all interested in lesson planning, and you may be, especially after tonight, I highly recommend you check out the replay of this webinar, because it goes through in great detail of how to create lesson plans and how to do them effectively. So definitely check that out. Let's see. The other place I would recommend to find help is our Getting Started tutorial videos. So on our help site, which is just help.homeschooltracker.com, right here at the top, these links here, this is our Getting Started video guide. And it's 11 short videos, each just a few minutes long. And you could probably watch the whole thing in about 30 minutes, and or you can just jump to the area that is most important to you. But that's definitely a great resource as well. Along that same line is this help site in general. So help.homeschooltracker.com is our help guide, and it's really set up kind of like a reference guide. So as you can see here, it's just kind of an index of all the different features and pages within Homeschool Tracker. So one of the tips that I like to share with folks is that if you're ever in Homeschool Tracker, so let me just jump over here real quick, and let's just go to the calendar view. So whenever you're in Homeschool Tracker on any particular screen, if you just click on this help link in the top right corner, that will take you directly to the corresponding help page for that page. So this is the agenda calendar view, and this page has anything and everything you'd ever want to know about that agenda calendar view, as well as links to all the relevant areas. So that's just a handy little trick there. The other thing I'll mention is the search bar here in the help guide. So if I go ahead and type in a search, let's just say days off, it will take me right to the page on how to set up days off within Homeschool Tracker. So again, really powerful tools here So definitely leverage the help guide, either using the search or just clicking on that help link whenever you are in Homeschool Tracker. And then last but definitely not least, email. You can always email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. We respond to each and every email that we receive, usually within just 1 or 2 business days, and we monitor that email box all the time. So any questions you may have, whether it be about the program or about your subscription or just techniques of like how we might recommend that you set things up for your specific homeschool, definitely don't hesitate to email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so let's dive into the interface of Homeschool Tracker. I'm just going to close some of these windows here. And when you've logged into Homeschool Tracker, you're most likely greeted with this menu here. And you can open and close that menu at any time just by clicking on this little down arrow. And the menu is broken up into 5 different areas. So up here in the top left, you have the schedules and planning section of the menu. That's where you'll find the agenda, both in calendar view as well as list view. And the agenda is just that. It's everything that you or your students need to complete in a given day or time period. This is also where you'll find your lesson plans, as well as the shared lesson plan library, and we'll cover a lot of those later. In the bottom left section of the menu, this is the students section. So this is where your main student list is, where you can set up the grade levels for your students. This is where you can find the grading overview, which shows you each and every grade that your student has received over a given time period. This is where you'll find the lesson plans and presets page for each student, and we'll cover that later as well. And this is also where you can add information to add on to a student's transcript, like awards or different tests that they've taken. In the center section of the menu, this is the reports section. This is where you'll find each of the reports that you can generate with Homeschool Tracker. Now, all of these reports are created as PDF files, which you could download, you could print them, you could email them. And you'll find everything from like the attendance report to a course list report, the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, transcripts and report cards. They're all here. The top right section of the menu, this is called the Manage Lists section, and this is really more of kind of the maintenance area of the program. So we call it that just because you're probably not going to be in and out of here like every day, but if you needed to add, edit, or create one of these items, this is where you would go. So for example, if you needed to add, edit, or delete an activity, you would go to the activities list, and that's where you would find all of your activities. You could change them or edit them or add new ones. This is where you'll find like your course list. If you needed to add a new course, that's where you would go. So that's why we call it the managed list section, because each one of these is a list of different items within Homeschool Tracker that you may need to edit at some point or another. The bottom right section of the menu is the Your Account section. This is where you'll find your main program options. This is where you can change your school profile, and it's also where you'll find the subscription users section, where you can change your subscription preferences, add user accounts to your account, that sort of thing. So that's just a quick overview of the menu and kind of the different areas of the program. So now let's dive into subjects and courses, and specifically the difference between the two. So subjects are really kind of those broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, and science. Those are the 4 kind of core subjects that every account is created with. And then courses are the specific areas of study within a subject. So, for example, Algebra 2 might be the name of a course, and that would probably fall under the subject of math. And Composition 1 would be the name of a course that fell under the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 could be the name of a course that fell under the subject of science. So within Homeschool Tracker, you kind of have this hierarchy, and you have subjects, which are, again, those really broad areas of study: math, language arts, history, or science. And then names of courses, which are those specific courses that your student is taking within those subjects. And those courses usually only go for a semester, for a year, and then you might have a different course the next year or the next semester. So that's kind of like how we like to think about subjects and courses in Homeschool Tracker. And it's important to know the difference between the two, and to think about how you might set up your account with subjects and courses from the beginning, because really within Homeschool Tracker, it all comes down to kind of what you want to have show up on a report down the line. So for example, if transcripts and report cards are really important to you, then you'll want to make sure you get kind of this organization scheme set up early, because on a transcript, for example, it might say math, and then it might list all of your different math courses below below that subject with all the grades and the credit units and that sort of thing. So it's important that you kind of set things up for success so that things are reflected correctly in your reports down the line. So let's go ahead and take a look at a demo of this. So I'm going to jump back here. And first thing I'll do is I'm going to go to the Manage Lists section of the menu, and I'm going to go to my subjects list. So here's my subjects list, and you'll notice that I have 4 subjects in here right now. And you also notice that there's not really a whole lot of information here otherwise, because again, subjects are really just those broad areas of study, and there's not really a lot of settings or a lot of details within a subject. It's just kind of a subject, and that's pretty much it. So for example, if I double click on history, you'll see that I could change the name of it if I wanted to. I could change it to an elective or a core subject. I also see all the names of the courses that kind of fall underneath this subject, and I could make this active or inactive. But otherwise, not a whole lot to do here. If I wanted to add a new subject, I could just go to Action and click on Add, give it a name, and then click Save. But now I want to take you to the Courses list. So let's click on Courses. And first off, you'll notice that there's a lot more information here. So I have a lot more courses, right? And I also have more information and more details within that course. So again, courses are much more specific, so you can have different settings for each and every course. So let's just open up this one. This is Ancient History 1. And I see that the name is Ancient History 1. It belongs to the subject of history. I could give it a code. I could assign it a number of credit units. I can choose how those credit units are calculated. I could have a different grading scale for this course if I wanted to. I could elect to use weighted grading. I could have notes for it. And I can, again, make this active or inactive. So again, you can see right off the bat that courses have a lot more detail associated with them because each course can be very different from one another. And this is how you can change those differences. So let's go ahead and create a new course. I'm going to go to Action, Add. I'm going to create a new course. Let's call it Reading 1. And the subject for Reading 1 is Language Arts. And I'm going to stop right there because as you probably noticed, as I was typing that in, Language Arts popped up here. And that's because this is what we call a smart entry field. And you'll see these throughout Homeschool Tracker. Basically, what they are is as you're typing, it's searching the corresponding list for anything that matches what you're typing. So in this case, it's searching the subjects list for anything that I'm typing here so that I can select the correct subject. Now, if I didn't know the name of the subject that I wanted to associate this with, I could just hit space bar, and I get a list of all the subjects. Oops, and I can choose which one I want. Okay, so for all these other settings, I'm just going to keep them to the default for right now. And let's just click Save. And then refresh this, and there we go. Now I have a new course called Reading 1, which belongs to the subject of Language Arts. And that course is ready to go. I can start adding assignments to that course. I can start using that throughout the rest of the program. So that's how you would set up a course and, kind of generally explaining the differences between subjects and courses. So a few things to watch out for. We recommend not using the exact same name for both a subject and a course, right? Because again, the course is much more specific, so it should have a more specific name. So I wouldn't recommend having a course named Language Arts as well as a subject named Language Arts. That could be confusing. You wouldn't really know which one you were looking at. In addition, if you see a slash, that shows the break between subject and course, because a lot of times within Homeschool Tracker, we combine subject and course into kind of one field. And so we designate the difference between a subject and course using a slash. So let me just show you what that looks like real quick. If I go to create an assignment, you'll notice this field here says subject/course. So rather than have a separate field for subject and a separate field for course, we've kind of combined them into one. So if I hit the spacebar here to bring up a list of all the subjects and courses, you'll notice that I have history, and I also have history/Ancient History 1. So if I select this one, I'm selecting the course Ancient History 1, and I can just see that it's part of the history subject. So that's what that slash means when you see that. Okay. Let's move right along into assignments. So within Homeschool Tracker, assignments are really the schoolwork tasks that we give our students to complete. And that could be many different things. So an assignment could be a lesson, it could be a homework assignment, it could be a quiz, it could be a test, it could be a field trip, anything that we want to physically assign to our student and then keep track of it over time. Now, assignments can come from a couple different places. So assignments can be created individually or in a series, or they could come from a lesson plan. And when that lesson plan is scheduled, it creates assignments. So that's why we think of assignments as kind of the heart of all of our record keeping, because from assignments and all of the data that's within an assignment, we can do a bunch of different things. We can generate report cards and transcripts. We could generate attendance report or attendance records if we have auto attendance enabled. We can create the daily task list. And all of those other reports can all be generated primarily because of assignments. So this is what a basic assignment entry form looks like. We actually just saw this a moment ago. And basically, there's only a few required fields. So really, you only need a student, a subject course, and a date. Everything else is optional. But obviously, the more information you put into an assignment, the more you can get out of it. So for example, there's an activity field. So this is where you could put the name of the activity this assignment is for. There's a resource field, which is where you could put the book or the resource that goes along with this assignment. There's a PLC field, and the PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. So you could put in pages 31 through 36, whatever it might be in that field. You can set start and end times for the assignment, especially this is important if you want to calculate time spent, for example. You can add in grades. So you can put in points possible and points earned for each assignment. Again, the time spent can be calculated here. And then you can basically mark an assignment as being completed by the teacher or by the student or by both. And that's really important because when a assignment is marked complete by a teacher, a number of things can happen. So attendance can be recorded, grades are generated, time spent can be calculated, and all of those reports can be generated. So, and this is the keeping track of part of an assignment that's important. So it's one thing just to create an assignment, but it's another thing to keep track of an assignment. And so when you mark it complete as a teacher, that's us kind of assuming that you're keeping track of it basically, and that the assignment has been completed. And so when the system sees that the assignment has been completed, then a lot of those reports and a lot of that data is recorded. So let's do a quick demo. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. So let's jump back over here. So I'm just going to go back to the main menu. And so assignments primarily live in the agenda. So I'm going to start in the agenda calendar view. And the agenda calendar view looks just like a calendar, right? So you've got the days of the week here. I can view the calendar in different formats, by week, by month, etc. I'm going to stick with work week here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to add, and I'm going to choose assignment single. So I'm going to create a single assignment. So let's create this for my daughter Campbell. And we'll pick a subject course. And again, these are smart entry fields, so I could just type or I could hit the space bar. And I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. And the activity, let's call this a lesson. And the resources, this is searching my library right here. So I'm just going to pick one of these books here. And then page, lesson, chapter, let's call this lesson 1. Now the date, let's just have this be for today. And we'll have this start at 8 a.m. and go to 9 a.m. And we'll make it worth 10 points. Okay. I could fill in these other fields if I like, but I'm just going to go ahead and save this. And so there we go. I have an assignment for Campbell from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. On Tuesday. So I've gone in and I've created that single assignment. Now let's say now it's the end of the day. And I want to go in and I want to add a grade to this assignment and then mark it complete. Well, I can just go ahead and double click on it. When you double click on an assignment, you get like a quick preview of it here. If I want to see more, I can click on more. So what I can do, let's go ahead and give it a grade. Let's say she got 9 out of 10 on this. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark it teacher complete. Okay. I'll go ahead and click on save. Well, actually, before I do that, as I clicked on that, you'll notice that it calculated the grade of 90% here because I marked it complete. So let's go ahead and click save now. And a few things happened. So first off, the assignment got a little bit darker in color. It did that because it's marked complete now. And so it just is doing that to show me that. And also, this Campbell present showed up here in this purple. And what that is an assignment record, or excuse me, an attendance record. So I have a feature called auto attendance enabled. And what that does is it basically says, okay, if you've marked something complete for a student on a given day, then I'm going to assume that that student was in attendance that day, and so we can create an attendance record for them. Obviously, you can turn that on and off. You can set the settings up for it all in the program options, but it's definitely handy because it allows you to then generate attendance reports rather easily. So there you have it. I created a single assignment. I marked it complete, and I gave it a grade. And what I mentioned about workflows earlier, this is a workflow that works for a whole lot of folks, right? So you could imagine kind of coming in here the morning of a day or maybe the night before, creating all the assignments for your student, and then going about your day, and then at the end of the day, going in and grading them and marking them complete. That would work just fine in Homeschool Tracker. This technique also works really well if you do it retrospectively. So, for example, let's say you go about your day, and at the end of the day, you go in and you create single assignments for all of the things that you did that day, and then give them grades and mark them complete all right then. Then Homeschool Tracker becomes much more of a logging tool, kind of like a logging book or a grade book, a more traditional grade book, than a planning tool. And that's totally fine too as well. That works really well, especially if you're an unschooler, or let's say you have another planning tool already. It could be a binder, it could be just a paper calendar, whatever it is. You can just go about your day the way that you've always done, and at the end of the day, come into Homeschool Tracker, put in all the assignments that you did that day, and you're off and running. So lots of different ways to work with it. What I want to do now is create multiple assignments. So we saw how to create one single assignment, but what if I wanted to create like 3 assignments at once? So let's go to Add, Assignment Multiple. And what you have here is the Add Multiple Assignments wizard. So this wizard is broken up into kind of 3 steps here. And what we can do, one thing that's nice is you can create more than one assignment for more than one student at a time. I'm just going to do it just for Campbell right now. But let's go ahead and create assignments for Ancient History 1. These will be lessons. We'll go ahead and just pick one of these. And again, we'll make it from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. These will be worth 10 points. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue to day and date. And that takes us to the next phase here. And day and date, we can choose how often we want this to happen. So I want to have it happen every day. And I'm going to have the start date let's have it be tomorrow, the 23rd. And I have 2 options here. I can continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, or I can continue creating items until an end date. I'm going to choose this first one because I want to show you how that works. So I'm going to continue to PLC. Now, PLC, remember, stands for Page Lesson Chapter. And when we think about Page Lesson Chapter, it's unlikely that every assignment would have the same PLC, right? Because you might think that the first assignment might be Lesson 1, the second assignment might be Lesson 2, the third one Lesson 3, and so on. So what we've built here are auto increment tools when creating multiple assignments. So I'm going to choose a 1-part auto increment. And the leading text for this will be lesson. And I'm going to start with Lesson 2 because I already created Lesson 1 when we created that single assignment. I'm going to end with Lesson 4, okay? I'm going to increment by 1. So basically what this is going to do is as it's creating the assignments, it's going to start with Lesson 2, then it's going to create Lesson 3, and then it's going to create Lesson 4, and then it's going to stop because I chose that option that said keep creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted. Well, this is a pretty short pattern. It's just going to create 3 assignments for me. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. And what this is it's just that. It's a preview. So this is a preview of what we're about to create. So you can see I'm about to create 3 assignments. The first one on Wednesday, and that's Lesson 2. Then the next one on Thursday, Lesson 3. And the next one on Friday, Lesson 4. So if I'm good with this, I can select all of them and then choose Accept Selected Items. And there you go. I just created 3 assignments from Wednesday to Friday, and they go Lesson 2, Lesson 3, Lesson 4. So pretty quickly, I was able to create 3 more assignments. And obviously, I could do this for many more days out in the future, but I just wanted to show this as an example. And so here we go. Now I have basically a full week of assignments for Campbell. Now, when we think again about workflow, we could certainly do this every week. Every Sunday night I could come in here and kind of create my multiple assignments and go about that way. And then every night after that, I could go in and put in my grades and mark them complete, or perhaps at the end of the week on a Friday night or something, I could do it for the whole week. But again, you kind of have different techniques for how you might go about using these tools. Okay. So next up, I want to show you how this works in the list view. So the agenda calendar view is really great because obviously you can see everything in a calendar format like this. Before we jump over to the list view, I want to show you a few other features in here. So up here at the top, these blue tabs, these are filters. So each one of these will filter what it is you're seeing in the calendar. So if I click on students, I can choose to view all students, or I could choose just to view certain students. I can choose what types of items I want to view. I can choose if I want to see just the completed items or incomplete items, and so on. Below that are kind of the navigation options for the calendar, which are pretty straightforward. There's also this export to PDF button. So if I click on that, I basically can create a PDF file of whatever my calendar looks like at that moment. And this is great if I wanted to print this out or if I wanted to email it to somebody, I have it ready to go. And at the very bottom, I have this button that says Show Full Day. If I click on that, then the calendar's starting at midnight and it goes to midnight. If I go back to Show School Hours, then it just shows the school hours that I have specified in my program options. So mine are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you can change that again in your program options. Okay, so let's jump over to the list view, because the calendar view is great, but as you've probably noticed, you can only edit, one item at a time. So I can only edit like one item here if I wanted to, but let's say I wanted to edit multiple items at a time, or I wanted to see the data differently. I would do that from the agenda list view. So keep in mind, the agenda list view and the agenda calendar view, they're still the same agenda, right? It's the same data. It's just you're viewing it in a different way. So in the calendar view, you're viewing it in calendar format. And in the list view, you're viewing it in this list format here. And so right off the bat, you can see a lot more information in the list view, right? I can see that, these are all worth 10 points. This one's already graded. These 3 have not been graded. Instantly you can kind of get a quick x-ray into all of the items in your agenda using the list view. So that's pretty handy. Now, just real quick on the list view, here on the left side, these are your filters. So just like we had filters in the calendar view, we have them in the list view. So I can choose the time frame that I'm looking at. I can choose what students we're viewing, etc. These columns here at the top, you can sort by any of these columns. So if I wanted to sort, I could do that here. I can also group by these. So if I grab one of these and drag it up here, now I'm grouping by, in this case, type. So I have all my assignments together and I have all my attendance records together, which is pretty handy. And then you can also search in here too, just to reveal whatever it is you type in for search. But probably the best feature, or one of the coolest features within the list view, is the ability to edit more than one item at a time. So let's say I wanted to edit all 3 of these items. I could just select them and then choose Action, Multi-Edit. And let's go ahead and I'm going to give these a grade. I'm going to give them a grade of 8 out of 10, and I want to mark them all complete. So I'll do that and click Save. So there you go. I just edited all 3 of those, and now they all have an 80% grade, and they've all been marked Teacher Complete. You'll also notice that these 3 attendance records were all created as well. So very quickly, I was able to edit more than one item at a time. And that's all done from the list view. So really powerful data manipulation tools here in the agenda list view. Okay, so just to recap, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them and we marked them complete. And we did that both from the calendar view as well as the list view. Okay, so let's jump into lesson plans. Now, it's important to understand what a lesson plan is. So in Homeschool Tracker, we think of a lesson plan as a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So this is great if you want to plan everything out in detail all at once, or if you have a predefined curriculum. So let's say maybe you bought a curriculum off the shelf, or you're just a hardcore planner and you want to create all of your lesson plans ahead of time. This is a great way to do it. And so lesson plans are nice because they're not tied to a particular student. So that means they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So let's say you created a lesson plan for your oldest student for freshman biology. You can keep that lesson plan, and when your younger students go and take that course, you can just reuse that same lesson plan. The other nice thing is lesson plans can be shared or imported using our shared lesson plan library. Right now we have over 1,000 lesson plans in there, all created by other users, and a lot of them are based off of off-the-shelf curriculum. So when we think about a lesson plan, I like to visualize it and kind of imagine a lesson plan as being a stack of papers. And each one of those papers is a different lesson within the lesson plan. And the nice thing is you can kind of create all of those and kind of order them and get them all ready to go without knowing who they're for or when you're going to use them. And that's what a lesson plan is. And it becomes a really powerful tool because when it comes time to use them, all you have to do is schedule it, and it will create assignments from that lesson plan for your students. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we're going to do a quick demo. What we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan. Then we'll create a simple one. Then we'll import one from the shared lesson plan library. And then finally, we'll schedule the lesson plan, and we'll also discuss how to use presets with lesson plans. So let's first see an example one. So I'm just going to jump over to my lesson plan screen. Now, if it's your first time with an Homeschool Tracker, you probably won't have any lesson plans in here yet. But I'm just going to go ahead and open an example one. I'm going to choose this Abeka Arithmetic First Grade Lesson Plan. So if I just click on lesson plan here, I can choose which one I want to open. I'm going to choose this one and click OK. So right off the bat, you'll notice that the lesson plan screen looks a lot like the agenda list view. We use a lot of the same navigation and paradigms within the program. So you've got all your filters on the left, and you have all your data here in the middle. And the other thing you'll notice is that each one of these items looks a lot like an assignment, but it's not. It's actually a lesson plan item. And it's different because if I open one of these up, you'll notice that there's no student associated with it. There's no date. Because like I said before, lesson plans are created and they're just a stack of papers, right? We don't know who they're for or when you're going to use them yet. But each one of these items is fully filled out and kind of ready to go. So it's almost like a template for an assignment in the future. And they're all ordered in a very specific order, right? So we can see that day 1 of this lesson plan is lesson 1, day 2 is lesson 2, and so on. When we get to day 12, there's an oral test, and that's worth 100 points. There's also a written test that's worth 100 points, and so on and so forth. And if I scroll all the way down, you'll notice that this goes for 171 days, and it's actually 202 items. So somebody took the time to create all 202 of these items ahead of time so that when it came time to take this course and use this lesson plan, they were already ready to go for you. So pretty handy stuff. So let's go ahead and create a simple lesson plan so we can see how to do that. What I'm going to do is just click on Add, and I'll choose Add Multiple. And what you'll notice is this looks a lot like the Add Multiple assignment wizard, right? And again, it's because lesson plan items look a whole lot like assignments. They're just kind of more like assignment templates. And this defaults to the lesson plan that I'm looking at right now. So I'm just going to delete that and create a new one. And so I'll create a new one just by giving it a name that doesn't exist yet. So I'll call this Sample Plan. And the subject course, let's just have it be for ancient history. And these will be lessons. Let's go ahead and pick a resource. And let's go to, we'll make these worth 10 points. And let's go to day numbers. I'm going to start on day 1 and increment by 1. Let's go to PLC. And again, this is the auto increment feature. I'm just going to choose lesson. And I'm going to start with lesson 1, and let's end with lesson 10. Okay. Let's go to continue to preview. And here's my preview of my lessons. I'm about to create 10 lessons. I'll just go ahead and select them and then choose accept. So now I just need to load this one up. It's called Sample Plan. And here we go. I just created a 10-day lesson plan for Ancient History 1. It starts with lesson 1, goes to lesson 10, and each one of those lessons is worth 10 points. Pretty easy to be able to do that. Let me go ahead and let's say I want to add a test. I want to add a test to this. I'll choose Add Single. Again, for Ancient History 1, and let's call this a test. And this will be for day 11, and it'll be worth 100 points. We'll save that. So there you go. Now I have an 11-day lesson plan. There's 10 days of lessons, and then 1 day, the last day is a test. Now I could continue this process over and over and create 180 days of lessons if I wanted to. absolutely can do that. If you are creating lesson plans that long or that detailed, definitely recommend checking out that lesson planning webinar that we have the recording of, because we go through a lot of tips and techniques for how to create those really detailed lesson plans efficiently within Homeschool Tracker. So definitely check that out. Okay, so that's how you would create a simple lesson plan. Pretty straightforward. And again, this lesson plan will just kind of live forever, whether I use it or not. And I could start using it right away, or I could have just created this for now, and because I know that we'll get to this lesson plan eventually, and then I could go ahead and use it. So pretty cool stuff. Let's go ahead and now import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So let me go to shared lesson plans. And I want to just show you all of them. So I'm going to enter in a blank search here and choose go. And as I scroll through here, you'll see why we have the search, right? Because there's just tons and tons of lesson plans, over 1,000. And that's just the last time I counted. And you'll notice a lot of these are based off of off-the-shelf curriculum, and there's descriptions here about what they are. Now, keep in mind, each of these is created by another user, just like you. So it might not be exactly what you're looking for. It might need to be edited, but they're oftentimes a great start and a great way to get going. We are seeing also that some curriculum providers are creating the lesson plans for us. So, for example, we just had the nice folks over at Unlock Math, I believe. They just created all of their lesson plans for us. Let me see. This is alphabetical, so let's just scroll down to Unlock Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and Pre-Algebra 1. These were created by the publishers themselves. So pretty cool stuff. Let me go back to the top here, because I'm just going to search in here for reading. And I want to pick up this Usborne First Reading Level 1 plan. If I just click on that, I'll get a preview of what the plan is. And you'll see here that this is a 15-day lesson plan, and it has a lot of details in it. So somebody clearly took the time to create this. So I want to go ahead and import this into my account. I'm going to click on Prepare for Import. And the first thing I do is give it a name. So I'm going to call this Reading 1. And then I can choose which items I want to import. I'm just going to go ahead and select them all. And before I accept the selected items, I want to go ahead and I want to edit this first, because I just noticed that for subject course, it says language arts. So that means that each one of these is just assigned to the language arts subject, not to a specific course. So I could import this, and then I could edit it later, but I could also edit it right now. So if I go to Action and choose Multi-Edit, I can change the subject course from language arts to language arts / reading 1. So if you remember, reading 1 is the name of the course that we created earlier tonight, and I want these to be associated with reading 1. So let's click on Save, and now those are all changed. Now the other thing you'll notice is that there's just a little asterisk and it says New next to a bunch of these items. That just means that those items don't exist in your account, and so when it imports it, it's going to create those for you, which is great. So I'll go ahead and click Accept. And now we're back on the lesson plan screen, and you'll see that I have the Reading 1 lesson plan loaded up, and we're back in our account. So now I have this 15-day lesson plan ready to go, and it's ready for me to use. So that's how you can really leverage all the other users and the work that they've put in is, you can import the lesson plans that have been created for you already. This is also great if you're part of like a co-op or a group, and you're kind of sharing curriculum. You can definitely have one member of your group create it and then share it with everybody else. Okay, so now we've imported a lesson plan. I want to show you how to schedule a lesson plan now. So now we've got this lesson plan, and we want to go ahead and actually use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first 5 days of it, okay? And then I'm going to choose Action Scheduler. So you'll remember I had that visual of lesson plans being kind of the stack of paper, right? And each one of those pieces of paper is a different lesson. And they're kind of off to the side, but now I want to go ahead and actually use it, right? So what I'm doing is I'm taking the first 5 sheets of paper. I'm taking those first 5 lessons, and I'm going to go ahead and run them off. That's what we used to say when you'd make copies, right? I'm going to go run these off. So I'm going to go take those 5 sheets of paper, those first 5 lessons. I'm going to go make copies of them for Campbell, and I'm going to give them to her. They're going to be her assignment, right? That's what we're doing when we're scheduling the lesson plan. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Campbell, and then I'll choose continue to day and date. And now I can choose when I want these lessons to be assigned. So let's have it be, I'm going to actually choose Monday of this week because I'm just want to schedule the whole week. I'm going to have it happen every day from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I'm going to say continue until all selected items in the lesson plan are used. If you remember, I just selected 5, so it should just do it for the whole week here. I'm going to continue to preview. So here we go. I've got day 1 is Monday, and this was the day 1 lesson plan or lesson item. And then this is day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. So if I select all of these and then choose accept selected items, what it's doing is it's taking those first 5 days and it just made copies of those and assigned them to Campbell. Okay. So here I am back in the lesson plan screen, and you'll notice those first 5 days, they didn't go anywhere. They're still here, right? Because I essentially used them as my template to create assignments out of them. So I made copies of them and assigned them to Campbell. So if I go to the calendar view now, here we go. Here's Campbell's copies, and they are now hers because they're her assignment, and they're on her agenda, and they're ready to go. So I took those first 5 days of that lesson plan, and I scheduled them for Campbell for these 5 days here on the week. Now, when we think about that, it's really powerful because just moments ago, we didn't even have this lesson plan. It was out there on the internet, and we just imported it, and now I've assigned it to Campbell for her to use. The other nice thing is that lesson plan still exists. It's still in my lesson plan screen here, just like we saw before. So if I wanted to, a year from now or 2 years from now, have Manning, my son, do this same lesson plan, I could just select these first 5 again and assign them, or schedule them to Manning for whatever 5 days he was available to do them. So that's really where the power and the beauty of the lesson plan comes in play, because you can create something once and you can use it many times. So that's how you would schedule a lesson plan. And that's a very kind of basic way of scheduling, where we kind of go in and select which ones you want and then go to Action Scheduler. That's kind of what we call like the basic scheduler. We also have a more advanced scheduler that I'd like to show you right now. So if we go to this page here, Lesson Plans and Presets, under the Student section of the menu, what we can do is we can schedule more than one lesson plan at a time for a student. So that previous method, we could only schedule one lesson plan at a time. And that might work fine. So when you think about workflows, you might go in on a Sunday night, load up a lesson plan, schedule it for the week, and then go about your week. Or I can use this Lesson Plans and Presets tool to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So here I am, I have Campbell selected, and right now she has these 6 lesson plans kind of active in this scheduler. Okay, if I click on edit, I can modify this and I can add in another lesson plan to her active lesson plans. This screen takes a little bit longer to load because it's pulling in a lot of different data here. But once it does, I can basically take this reading 1 plan and I can just check the box for it because I want to add this to her active plans that she's using here. Then I'm going to go to preset. Now, what a preset is, this looks a lot like a calendar, right? But there's no dates on here. It's just the days of the week. And what presets are they are preset times, days and times of when I want the scheduler to schedule specific courses. So if you'll notice, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, I have Ancient History 1 kind of blocked out here. Then I have spelling from 10 to 11, then arithmetic from 11 to 12, and so on. So when I run this kind of advanced scheduler, the scheduler will look at the lesson plans and it'll match them up with the preset times here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new preset for reading 1. I'm going to have that happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, and I'm going to click Save. So there we go. I now have a preset for reading 1 from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now, if I go to the scheduler, and again, remember, this is kind of our advanced scheduler, I will have the option to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time for Campbell. So here we go. I can select whichever ones I want. I'm going to have all of these selected. So there's 7 lesson plans selected. I'm going to continue to day and date. Now, in the day and date here, rather than choosing daily or weekly or monthly or whatever, I'm going to choose preset, okay? And so when I choose preset, I don't even need to remember when I want these to schedule. It's going to look at those presets that we just looked at a moment ago, and it's going to schedule them at those preset days and times. So I'm going to have the start date be next Monday, and I'm going to continue until next Friday. So basically, I'm just going to schedule next week, Monday through Friday, and I'm going to use those preset days and times. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. So here we go. I have 48 items here. So these are 48 lesson plan items that are about to be scheduled as assignments. So you'll notice on Monday, I have Ancient History 1 from 9 to 10. Then I have spelling from 10 to 11. If I go all the way down here to 3 to 4 p.m., I have Reading 1. Now, what you'll notice here is it says Reading 1. If I look at the day column, it says day 6. Now, you'll remember we scheduled the first 5 days already. And so it knows that I already scheduled those first 5 days for Campbell. So it's going to pick up where we left off with day 6. You'll notice that a lot of these are picking up where we left off, right? This is starting with day 14, then day 11, day 58. So no matter where I am within the lesson plan, it remembers. And it's going to, when it goes to schedule, it's going to pick up where you left off. So you don't have to think about that. You don't need to remember that, nor does your student. It's going to know. And so again, that's another really powerful feature within lesson plans. So let's go ahead and select all of these and then choose Accept Selected Items. So right now it's creating all 48 of those assignments. I'm very visual, so I'm imagining taking those 48 sheets of paper and creating copies of the copy machine and then kind of passing them out to Campbell. That's kind of what's happening here, but in a very digital sense. And so it's just going to reload this screen here. And now if I go to the calendar view and I go to next week, there you have it. Oh, it's still loading here. There we go. Campbell's week for next week is fully packed, right? Because we just assigned her 48 assignments for next week at very specific times that we had set up ahead of time. So Ancient History 1, you can see, is happening from 9 to 10, and then spelling, and then looks like arithmetic and grammar, and so on. So very quickly, with just a few clicks, I was able to schedule 48 lessons for an entire week. So when we go back and we think about workflow, if you have kind of fully bought into Homeschool Tracker and you're really using it and you're using the lesson plans, all these things, you can see how if you do a decent amount of planning up front with the lesson plans and the presets and all these things, you can create your week's agenda in no time at all. You can come in on a Sunday night, load up the lesson plans you want to schedule, boom, 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 and have it schedule the whole week for you. You could print off task lists or whatever and be off and running. So really powerful feature here. So we kind of have shown you kind of the extremes, the very basic, creating one assignment at a time, grading it, marking it complete, all the way to a very advanced workflow of having all these lesson plans and scheduling them all at the same time. Okay, so just to recap, we saw an example lesson plan. We created a simple one. We imported one from the lesson plan library, and then we scheduled those lesson plans. Now on to reports. So like we mentioned before, reports are created as PDF files that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis. So let's take a quick look at that. If I go to the reports section of the menu and choose daily task list, I have a bunch of different settings here. I won't go into all the details, but basically you can specify what you want to show or not show on your daily task list and lots of different options. But let's go ahead and create a daily task list for next week. So I'm going to go the 28th through the 1st. So all 5 days. And then I'll choose Generate Report and then Pick Up Report. And so that just downloaded a PDF file here. So here is the daily task list. This one is 4 pages long, and you can see that it's just like our agenda basically, and it's showing each and every assignment that Campbell has for next week, the specific times, a lot of the details. And so I could print this out. I could give it to her. I could put it up on a bulletin board, whatever you like. So definitely a great resource. If you like to print things, it's definitely very helpful. Now, when we talk about transcripts and report cards, we won't go into all the details about those just now, but a transcript or report card can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So when we think about transcripts and report cards, they typically are there to show grades. Now, your courses won't show up on a transcript or report card unless you have at least one assignment that's been graded and marked complete. As soon as you have at least one, it'll show up on the transcript or report card. And the more that you have, then it'll start to calculate a cumulative grade based off of how you have that set up. So just keep that in mind when you're creating transcripts and report cards. All right, so to talk about workflows, we actually just kind of mentioned this a few moments ago, but there's a lot of different ways you can use Homeschool Tracker. There isn't one right way, and there's definitely no wrong way. But we've kind of covered a few of them tonight, right? You could create and complete single assignments on a daily basis. You could do them. You could do multiple assignments, like on a weekly basis. You could use lesson plans and schedule all of your students, 1 week at a time. And we definitely recommend, there's kind of this natural tendency to want to go ahead and schedule your whole year all up front. We definitely would recommend not doing that. It definitely limits your flexibility. It makes it a little bit more difficult to reschedule things. So we tend to recommend to folks just schedule 1 or 2 weeks at a time, especially if you're just starting out and you're kind of getting the hang of things. Because what that does is it allows you the flexibility to either work faster or work slower. And like you just saw, your lesson plans, all those things, they keep track of where you are. So you don't necessarily need to schedule everything out in advance. You can always look to see where you are within a lesson plan if you're curious. So lots of different workflows, and we're always discovering new ways that people are using Homeschool Tracker all the time. So with that said, let's go ahead and turn it over to Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and submit those through that Q&A button. And I will mention too at this time, so for all of you online tonight, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. What we like to do for folks that have attended one of our training sessions is we like to credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So what we'll do after tonight is we'll go and pull a report of everyone that attended tonight, and then we'll modify your account and move the expiration date out 1 month so that you can get a free month of Homeschool Tracker on us. If you're not currently a Homeschool Tracker subscriber, we'll reach out to you and we can certainly set you up with a free month as well. Okay, so Kathy Powers is asking, what does code mean in the course edit box? So Kathy, the code that she's talking about, let me just show folks here. In the courses list, if we go here, you'll see this field for code. The code is purely for your own use. So it's kind of a holdover from the old Homeschool Tracker Plus and Basic editions where we had codes for courses. But if you wanted to create a code for your course, you could. And they're typically, kind of maybe 4 characters or 5 character codes. So I might call this, maybe, or ancient hiss, something like that, 1. And basically that's just a course code. You might see course codes in like syllabus or like a course catalog or something, and like if you're applying to public school or something like that. So that's just a field that you can use if you like to, but it's not required. You don't have to. It's just for your reference, basically. Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Kathy. Carla is asking, I will sometimes schedule an assignment and a quiz in the same course on the same day. Do I have to schedule those as separate assignments in order to put in a grade for each? Yes, Carla, you do. So Carla's asking, if you want to have more than one assignment for a course on a given day, and you want to give independent grades for each, then yes, you need multiple assignments. You need to create 2 of them. And you kind of see this sometimes reflected in your lesson plans. So if I just bring up a sample, let's see if I can find one that would show a good example of this. Oops. Yeah, so for example, if you look here at this physical science lesson plan, you'll notice, and this is not exactly the example that you were talking about, Carla, but she has we have in this lesson plan, I should say, there's day one. So both on the same day, there's a reading activity and a workbook activity. And so they're different assignments, really. And they might be graded differently as well. So you would do the same thing if you had an assignment and a quiz on the same course on the same day. Okay. Kathy says, thank you. You're very welcome. Tina's asking, how do you put in days off, holidays, or no school days? Great question, Tina. So if I just go, let's just go to the calendar view. And I'll show you how to do that. So if I wanted to go ahead and add in a day off, I just go to choose add and choose day off. And I can specify who it's for, which students, and what type of day off. It could be a holiday, vacation, or other. Let's just take a vacation day, and we'll go to continued day and date. And now I could create a date range. So if we're going to go on vacation for 2 weeks around Christmas or something, I could block those out right now. But let's just go ahead and create a day off for, actually this would be Labor Day, I think. September 4th. And it's just going to be one day. So I'll continue to preview. So Campbell's going to have the day off. It says vacation on September 4th, and I can choose accept. Okay. So now if I go forward a week, you'll notice that it says here, Campbell vacation, and that shows that that's a day off. Now, a day off is all that's all it is right now. But the nice thing about putting a day off in your calendar here or in your agenda is that if I wanted to create assignments or schedule lesson plans, you may or may not have noticed this as we're going through that, but there was always this option to skip days off. I'll just show you real quick if I can show you here. Under day and date, there's this option to skip days off or skip non-school days. So non-school days in my case are Saturday and Sunday. It could be different for you. Let's say you wanted to always have Wednesdays off or something. You could set that up in your program options. And then you also have skip days off. So if I choose skip days off here and I'm scheduling multiple assignments, it's going to skip that Monday, September 4th, because it's a day off. Okay, hopefully that answers your question, Tina. Jennifer's asking, if you schedule a day off after you've already scheduled assignments, will it automatically bump the assignments? No, it won't, Jennifer. That's a great question. The reason it doesn't is because each assignment has the option to, I'll show you this as well. Within each assignment, there's this option here to be rescheduled or not rescheduled. And you can imagine the complexity that might be faced if that whole week that we just looked at, actually, here's a better example. So this whole week is scheduled. There's 48 assignments on here, right? If I go ahead and, just put a day off right here on Tuesday, what would happen, right? Some people might say, well, let's just bump everything forward a day. Well, what if I have 48 assignments next week also? I'm going to just bump everything forward a day. That solution to me is not acceptable, because what if this assignment was tied to this specific day for some reason, right? Let's say this wasn't an assignment at all, but it was a field trip or it was a clarinet lesson or something. That could cause major issues if we just automatically bump things. So we never automatically bump anything. If you want to bump things or reschedule them, you have to do that manually, but there's tools to do that. So while we're on the topic, I'd like to show you guys how to reschedule things in a way that makes sense, right? So here we go with this week here. Let's say that we wanted to take Monday off, or Campbell was sick on Monday, and so I want to bump everything forward. What I would do is I would go to the agenda list view, and let's just go to next week. So these are all of those 48 assignments for next week, right? Let's go ahead and select all of them, okay? And I'm going to choose Action, Reschedule. And I'm going to change the start date here from, it was the 28th, I'm going to change it to the 29th, and then choose Continue to Preview. So now you'll see the existing date was Monday, and the new date is Tuesday. So I'm going to select all of these and then choose Accept. And so what it's doing is it's basically rescheduling all of those assignments, and it's moving them all forward one day. So in a sense, it's doing exactly what you're describing, Jennifer. It's bumping everything forward a day. And so here you go. So now I have this day totally cleared out, and everything got bumped forward a day. If I go to next week, it bumped it this one before today too. And you'll also notice that it skipped Monday because Monday is Labor Day and it skipped over that. So that's kind of how that works. And the reason it works like that is because we want to make sure that you are always in control of where your assignments are, especially when this is just one student. This is just Campbell, and she has 48 assignments in a week. You can imagine if you have 5 students, very quickly you could have 100 plus assignments in a week. And if we start doing things on your behalf, you might not be happy about it, right? So we want to make sure you are always in control of where your assignments are and how you're scheduling and or rescheduling them. I want to show you one more example of rescheduling that comes up often. So let's say we want to skip Tuesday as well. Let's say Campbell is sick on Tuesday, but I don't want to bump forward everything because I don't want to get too far behind. Let's say I just want to bump forward Tuesdays. So let's go to the list view again. And what I'll do is I'm just going to select Tuesday's assignments. So everything on the 29th. Okay. And I'll choose Action, Reschedule. And I'm going to change the start date here from Tuesday to Wednesday and then continue to preview. So now you'll notice that the existing date is Tuesday and the new date is Wednesday. And you'll also notice down here that it says, hey, there's an existing item here on Wednesday and you're going to conflict with it. And that's fine. We know that. So I'm going to select all of these and choose Accept. And so what I just did is I bumped Tuesday forward a day without bumping everything else forward. So now she's doubled up on Wednesday because I want her to catch up so that we don't get too far behind. And that way, it doesn't bleed too far into this week. So those 2 rescheduling scenarios are what we see most often, and that's kind of how you would handle either one of those. Hopefully that answers your question, Jennifer. Looks like, yes, you say awesome. Thank you. Okay, cool. So any other questions? Feel free to chime in, folks. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, we really appreciate you guys being online tonight. I know it's getting late and there's plenty of other things to do, but it's end of August and it's time to get back to school. So I'm sure a lot of us are staying up late anyway, getting our curriculums together, getting our lesson plans together, perhaps. So happy to stay up with you. Jana says, thank you for all the information. It was great. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, well, it seems like we're kind of wrapping up, winding down on the questions. Again, we will, Robin says, thank you so much. This has been helpful. That's awesome. Thank you guys for saying that, first of all, because when you're doing with these webinars, like literally, I'm just in a room all by myself talking into a microphone, and it seems sometimes like I'm talking to myself. So I appreciate you guys saying that, and appreciate you being online tonight. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up and won't take up any more of your time. Again, for all of you that attended, we will credit your account with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So thank you for joining us. Please tell your friends if you're working with anybody else in like a co-op or a group. We'd love to work with them as well with Homeschool Tracker. So with that, we will wrap it up for tonight. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys again soon. All right, have a good night. Thanks.